All right, let's talk about one of the great mysteries in the business world. It's a puzzle that has tripped up some of the biggest, smartest companies you can think of, and it continues to do so today.
I mean, it's a heck of a question, right? You see these giants, these industry leaders that look absolutely invincible, and then, seemingly out of nowhere, they just crumble when a new technology or some scrappy competitor shows up. The easy answer is to say, well, they must have been asleep at the wheel. But the real story, oh, it's so much more fascinating than that.
So, yeah, why do these great companies fail? Here's the paradox, the real twist. It's often not because they're doing things wrong, it's because they're doing everything right, at least according to the old rules of good management.
And this quote from the brilliant Clayton Christensen just hits the nail on the head. Imagine you're running a successful company. You listen to your best customers and you focus on your most profitable products because, hey, that's what makes sense. So when you're faced with this choice, do you pour money into a low profit market or do you double down where the real money is? The answer seems obvious, doesn't it? But that very rational, very logical choice, that's the first step right into the trap.
Okay, so to really get why that smart-sounding choice can lead to disaster, we need to pop the hood and look at the engine of a company. The first big clue to solving this whole mystery is hiding in plain sight. It's all about the business model.
So what in the world is a business model, really? Well, at its heart, it's just the story of how a company creates value for people and for itself. It answers the big questions. What are you offering your customers? How do you actually make money from it? And what key resources and processes do you need to make it all happen? The crucial thing is that all these pieces have to lock together just right. And one of the best ways to actually see that engine is with a tool called the Business Model Canvas. Seriously, think of it like a blueprint for a business, all on one page. It lets you sketch out all the moving parts and see how they connect to build something that works, something that's profitable. This is the exact tool we're going to use to crack this case wide open. So, to draw up that blueprint, the canvas breaks a company down into 9 essential pieces. These 9 building blocks give you the full picture of how any business actually operates. And here they are. You can think of it in 2 parts. On one side, you've got everything customer-facing. Who are your customers? What do you offer them? How do you reach them? And of course, how do you make money? Then, on the other side, you have the backstage stuff. What key resources and activities do you need? Who are your partners? And what does it all cost? When you fill this in, you're not just listing things, you're mapping out the DNA of the company. All right, we have our tool. And this is where the story gets really good. This is the plot twist. The biggest threat to a successful company usually isn't a competitor with a slightly better product. No. The real game changer, the thing that turns whole industries upside down, is a competitor with a completely different business model. And that brings us to 2 totally different kinds of innovation. First, you have what's called sustaining innovation. This is the game incumbents play, making their products better and better for their most profitable, high-end customers. And they're fantastic at it. They almost always win that fight. But then there's disruptive innovation. This isn't about being better. It's about being simpler, cheaper, or more convenient. It targets people who aren't even customers yet, or customers at the low end that the big guys ignore. And in this game, the newcomers, they have a massive advantage. This chart shows it perfectly. See that top line? That's the big companies, always improving their tech, making it better and better. But look at the bottom line. That's what most customers actually need. That gap that opens up, that's the opportunity. The disruption starts at the bottom, with a product that's not good enough for the mainstream. But it gets a foothold, it improves, and it moves up on a different path until, bam, it intercepts the mainstream market, and by then, it's too late for the big guys. The steel industry is the classic story of this in action. Back in the day, these new mini-mills could only make cheap, low-quality steel called rebar. The huge, established steel mills, they were more than happy to get out of that low-profit business to focus on high-end steel. But for the mini-mills, that rebar was their foothold. They made a profit, they learned, they got better. And then they moved up to the next level of steel, and the big mills fled again. This happened over and over, with the big mills chasing higher profits upmarket until there was simply nowhere left for them to run. And you can see this exact playbook with a company like Ryanair. Just look at their business model canvas. It's a masterpiece of disruption. Their target customer? People who just want to get from A to B as cheaply as possible. And every single block on this canvas is built to serve that goal. They use secondary airports to save money. They charge for everything from bags to snacks. It's a completely different machine than a traditional airline.
But disruption isn't always about being the cheapest. Just look at Google. Their model is something else entirely. It's called a double-sided model. For us, the users, everything is free. Search, Gmail, Maps, it's all free. Why? Because we aren't the customer. We're the product. Google builds this massive audience, us, and then they sell access to that audience to their real customers, advertisers. It's an unbelievably disruptive model that created a market that didn't even exist before.
So what's the takeaway here? What does this all mean for you? Well, once you understand these ideas, the business model canvas, the difference between sustaining and disruptive innovation, you suddenly have this powerful new lens. You have a framework to see the world differently, to spot the next big threat, or maybe the next huge opportunity. And here's a practical tool to do just that. Christensen gave us these 3 litmus tests. First, does the new idea target people who aren't buying at all, or people at the low end of the market? Second, can it survive on a business model where the big guys can't make money? And third, this one's key, is it disruptive to all the major players? Because if it actually helps one of the big competitors, they'll adopt it, and they have the resources to crush you. Which leaves us with this one final thought to chew on. Whenever you see a new business or a new product, ask yourself this question. Is this just a better mousetrap, aimed at the same old customers with the same old needs? Or is it something else? Is it a completely new way to solve the mouse problem, one that changes the rules of the game for everyone? The answer to that could be the difference between a minor tweak and an absolute revolution. Thanks for joining us.